Charles Washington loved his town, Charlestown. He promised his neighbors, "Make a new county, and I'll give you a site for a courthouse." So Charles died in 1799, and Jefferson County was born in 1801, and a small, commodious courthouse went up on the northwest corner of the public square of Charlestown. A bigger, born-again courthouse went up in 1836. Messrs. Lackland, Douglas, and Kennedy helped to buy a $200 parcel just to the north owned by Andrew Hunter, a lawyer. This symbol of town pride reigned as the B&O Railroad brought business to the region from Baltimore and Ohio. Until the trial in 1859 of John Brown for high treason for his raid on the Federal Armory in Harper's Ferry. A nation tearing but not quite divided was riveted on the downstairs courtroom, where wounded but unbending Brown spoke his cause right up to his death. The county's written memory, deeds, wills, marriages, records, all were whisked away to safety in Lexington, Virginia, as the war began. Blue coats and gray coats swept back and forth over the county, shooting, galloping, ducking, raiding pig pens, hayfields, kitchen pantries, as the local enslaved blacks either caught a ride out following the blue coats or stayed even closer to the farms and homes they helped to maintain and build. The proud courthouse would fall with the South into ruin. On October 18, 1863, Confederate General John Imboden surprised a Union garrison commanded by Colonel Benjamin Simpson in Charlestown. I went out and saw a man approaching the courthouse on horseback with the flag of truce in his hand. "Halt! What do you want?" "General Imboden demands the unconditional surrender of the town." "If he wants it, tell him to come and take it." In about 5 minutes, the gentleman came back. "General Imboden requests that you move all the women and children from the houses in the vicinity of the courthouse and jail, as he intends to shell the town. This shall be done, but it will take about an hour." "You must think we are foolish." A shell struck one corner of it and, glancing from against the log palisade, exploded. Every shot they fired struck the courthouse. The third shot entered it, and exploding in the palisade of the upper story, wounded the adjutant and one private. There were from 10 to 20 shells struck and exploded in the courthouse and around it. Sunday, August 21st, 1864. James E. Taylor, an artist with General Sheridan's army, dined at Sarah Bell's Sappington Hotel near the courthouse. And after checking his stabled horses, he noticed the Union infantry marching past. We passed to the courthouse to view the 6th and 8th Corps after their arduous work in holding Early in check on the Smithfield Pike. It would require an inspired pen to truly picture the intensified emotion and gloomy silence that pervaded the ranks of the musketeers as they moved by the old Temple of Justice in the growing night. All in marked contrast to their elastic steps on a bright morning a few days earlier when, with waving banner, martial music and voices that inspired the song John Brown's Body is a Harbinger of Victory. Monday, August 22nd, 1864, Sappington's Hotel. We could hear the clatter of horses tearing like mad down the pike and whistling minis splashing against the courthouse wall. Shells began exploding about, the enemy having got a battery in position on the west end of town. We whirled wildly away and down a side street in preference to joining the stampeding bluecoats on the bullet-swept street. General Anderson's infantry and General Fitzhugh Lee's cavalry were driving General Wilson and Alfred N. Duffy's cavalry divisions from the town and established a line beyond it.
Down in the valley, valley so low.
When the war ended, and soldiers on both sides limped or wandered home, and blacks either struggled with their new freedom in an unsympathetic, impoverished South, or started anew in the North, the courthouse in Charlestown stood a defiled ruin of shattered life ways, a broken bridge to the past. Useless as a keeper of the sacred records, the county courthouse was officially moved to Shepherdstown's brand new courthouse, built from the generous coin of Rezin Davis Shepherd. Charlestown's old courthouse stood naked, disgraced, reflecting the town's broken spirit. The courthouse and jail had been picked over for 4 years by Union soldiers and souvenir hunters, leaving just the bare walls of the stone courthouse. An 1869 visitor from Chicago walked down Charlestown's streets. The ruined courthouse and jail have been despoiled by soldiers to make quarters, and tens of thousands of men have marched through Charlestown singing John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave, his soul is marching on. The courthouse maintains its walls and outlines, and the 4 brick and plaster door columns are still standing, but the roof is reduced to a few beams. The whole interior is torn out, and the edifice has now only one floor, the cellar. And, to speak truthfully, the cesspool for all the vagrants of the village. To look into the interior is to feel revolted, yet to say, this place is cursed. But pride and hope springs eternal, even from a cesspool. Charlestown's town pride was lit by a scheme by the Shepherdstown leaders to buy up and forever prevent the old courthouse from rising again from the ashes. That move blocked. Charlestown's artisans and leaders scraped together a plan to rebuild their courthouse at half what they believed was the price of the Shepherdstown structure. Trying to keep the budget for their courthouse at less than $20,000. Then, in August 1871, with the state legislature siding with returning the county seat to Charlestown, Charlestown worked and plastered and sawed, hammered and poured and painted until on December 21st, 1872, Mr. Woodman of the Howard Watch and Clock Company of Boston eased the beautiful clock onto the new courthouse cupola, aided by a handsome, deep-toned bell, courtesy of the Troy Manufacturing Company. Our church-going friends, wrote Mr. Gallagher, the editor of the Virginia Free Press, will have an opportunity of noting the time for preparing for church on time by the clear, distinct tones of the clock. Fed up with the droves of tourists wanting to see the John Brown courtroom, the new building was designed so that it had offices on the first floor in its place. Moreover, for almost the next 4 decades, the elegant courtroom upstairs was used as only one of 3 circuit stops for the state's Supreme Court of Appeals. A visitor in September 1894 wrote, "Charlestown contrasts most favorably with Harper's Ferry, being as neat and thrifty as the other is shabby. Of course, you drive at once to the courthouse, which is partly the building in which John Brown was tried. The walls cover the same space, and the pillars in front are in the same position, although higher. And walking through the lower hall to the rear, you can pass over the very space John Brown's mattress lay. But all the lower floor is now devoted to offices, and the courtroom is up 1 flight. Standing in the doorway was a pleasant-looking gentleman, apparently 45 years of age, smoking a corncob pipe, and in it the fragrant natural leaf. As time went on, business went on. The courthouse grew bigger, adding an annex in 1910. A young Bud Morgan remembered Charlestown in the 19-teens. A great sight each summer day was the row of Confederate veterans sitting on the east end of the courthouse wall. About 12 to 15 of them gathered there every day, some in tattered uniforms, some missing an arm or a leg, but all happy and cheerful, joking and kidding with all who passed by. They were the most highly honored and respected men in the county. I was a favorite with them because some had served in the 1st Virginia Cavalry, of which my grandfather, William A. Morgan, was colonel. At another celebrated treason trial in this building, that of minor leader Bill Blizzard in 1922, townswomen demurely vied with news reporters for the prize 150 seats in the courtroom. Juries still give verdicts there, the gavel still drops, and lives of all kinds are thus changed forever at the Jefferson County Courthouse.
Da, 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 da. Down in the valley, valley so low,